Hello, everyone. I am Sara Raney, and I am a victim. I lost my son, Kenley, on January 25th, 2019, to a drunk driver, or as the police officer stated, to another damn drunk driver. He also told me that my son was not at fault. Of course, I already knew that. My son never had a ticket to my knowledge. Of course, obviously never drove drunk or had a DUI. And he always was a safe driver. He tried to drive the speed limit. And when he got tired, he would pull off the road and sleep in a safe rest area. Now, he had done this many times before in his travels because he loved to travel. He loved to drive across the United States and meet up with his friends. But this time, he was going for an interview for emergency room position at a hospital. And that night, he became sleepy, pulled off the road in a safe rest area, and walked his favorite companion, who was with him at all times, his furry dog, Marshall, and called his girlfriend and went to sleep, never to wake up again. All because of a drunk. A drunk who had no respect for anybody or anything else but having a drink. It happens too many times. Now, like all victims, I am serving a life sentence. My question to you is, shouldn't that be the damn drunk driver who killed my son serving the life sentence, or the damn drunk driver who killed your child? But no. The justice system, everything, we are serving the life sentence. Our justice system, favors the criminal. And that is a reality. And we, the victims, get lifetime sentences. I will say it over and over again. They get all the support. And we, the victims, have little or no support or rights that are enforced. The reality is, as victims, we not only have to be a squeaky wheel, but also understand our rights and always make sure that what we say is accurate. Forget what we hear on TV and never use foul language. It is just not appropriate in any time, and it doesn't serve any purpose. It just lowers you to the drunk. This is a very important to protect for your protection. Please insist that all communication from the DA's office is in writing, and keep it for your records. Now, if they insist on communicating via the telephone, record every conversation. Whatever you do, record every conversation. You will be glad you did in the future. Why is this important? Well, trauma, shock. Do I need to say more? I couldn't think straight for years after my son's death. Getting up in the morning was challenging. You're walking around with a mix of numbness and overwhelming waves of emotion. And you're doing your daily chores, things you have to do. You were supposed to remember what someone said days, weeks, or months ago. Most days we are lucky if we can remember our names, what we did yesterday, or even what we ate for lunch. If I heard one more time, I told you months ago, or why can't you remember? When confronting these immense challenges, we somehow push through, carrying out the task life demands, no matter how demanding they appear. But do we remember all of them? No, what we do remember is unclear and fuzzy. But everyone wants you always to remember what they say or do, or what you say or what they say or do. That is everyone. Friends, relatives, everyone. One thing always stays the same. Criminals get all the rights, and the DA's office works for the state and not for us, not for the victims. You learn that very quickly. They tell you that. But I never thought the DA's office would repeatedly victimize me, or should I say, one narcissistic DA. Like everyone who is thrown into the life sentence of disbelief, trauma, loneliness, tears, and shock, you cannot think straight, forget things, and need someone will have, well, your best interest at heart. Oh yes, let's not forget depression that hits when you least expect it. It has been over 5 years, and I still have problems with depression. To this day, in fact, yesterday was one of them. And probably for the rest of my life. I know my son is dead, but I do not believe it. I cry every day. I miss him every day. Yes, we have a life sentence. I wanted to learn more about victims' rights, so I attended a state victims' rights conference a few years ago, and this 2-day conference was enlightening. And the speakers were dedicated victims' rights advocates. I learned a lot from this experience. Now, these are the victims' rights people paid by the DA's office. Now, a few victims' rights advocates mentioned that they sometimes struggle with a DA that is indifferent to the victims' rights. Now, I have met some excellent victims' rights advocates who work for the DA, who truly believe in what they are doing and did the best job they possibly could for their victims. And I commend them. In all workplaces, everything depends on the supervisor in charge or the elected official in charge. Are they able to influence or enforce the laws? In this case, or do they fold when they have a narcissistic individual whom they work for? As a teacher, I worked in both situations. And believe me, most of us respected the one principle that served or stood firm and did not allow this by the teachers or by other people working for the school district. Few people stand up to this behavior. It is a trait that not many supervisors have. But those who do are unforgettable and are truly wonderful. Too bad we don't have a lot more elected officials like that. This is why I want to emphasize the importance of insisting on written communication from the district attorney's office. No matter who gives it to you, remember who the boss is and where their paycheck comes from. Again, remember and record every telephone call if you cannot get the DA's office to give you written information. This became a pivotal learning point, especially when I realized the significance of having my records for future reference. You'd be amazed how many times I was told that I forgot something. Regrettably, I didn't always adhere to the practice of recording telephone conversations. Notably, when the DA's office showed a preference for telephone calls, I should have been more diligent. But I was in trauma and alone. Now, this oversight is something I deeply regret to this day. As I understand the value and security that comes with having these recordings. Selective hearing, we've all heard about that. Selective hearing. During the process, my interactions with a specific individual within the system significantly magnified my PTSD symptoms. The mere mention of his name and the sound of his voice with me and him triggered an overwhelming emotional response. I would shake, cry. Let's put it this way, I was totally out of it. This wasn't a brief or isolated experience. It led to days filled with acute distress and has had a profound, lasting effect on my mental health to this day. To this day, I don't want to face this person. And I'm a strong individual. Sharing the following with you is challenging, but it is essential. It underscores the reality that victims must be vigilant and knowledgeable about their rights and how they engage with the legal system. And I hope that sharing my experience can help prevent others from enduring the similar hardships that I did. This should have never happened. December 21st, 2021. This day is still hard for me to talk about, but I can back it up with marshals, the assistant DAs that were there, and other staff members that were there, and that are no longer working there. Thanks to an assistant DA who was there and has always been there for me. She saved disappearing documents, and actually, according to what I was told by the new DA who took over the case, she is the one that saved my case. She is the one that protected me all along. I appreciate her so much. And I would not give her name out today because I wouldn't want retribution for her. In reality, again, life is not like TV. Another rude awakening is that many victims land on the DA's desk. Now, while we are only thinking about our loved ones, yes, our loved ones have become a case number. This is a reality, with hundreds of cases of drunk drivers arriving on the DA's desk every day. In fact, in so many in Texas, that eventually they were giving out probation if you've only killed once. That's how bad drunk drivers are nowadays. When I understood my rights and stood firm, I ignited the DA's fury, which I did share some of it in another video. That day was December 23rd, 2021. A day that will eternally haunt me. It should never have happened. Several people in the DA's office were notified that I was attending the hearing. In fact, they all ended up that day in that office. However, no one got back to me or my advocates who were with me that morning. There were 4 of us. We should have been taken into what the court calls a safe room for victims, which is a victim's rights with the CVCR and also with Marcy's Law. But it seemed like when I spoke to them afterwards, they didn't even know where the safe room was at. Without the marshal's protection, I stood exposed, not only to the emotional turmoil of facing my son's killer for the first time, but to potential physical vulnerability as well. That was the day that I came face to face with the man who killed my son and his mother. It was deliberate. How do I know? The incident raises critical questions about accountability, personal bias, and emotional reactions that can influence decisions comprising individual safety and rights, and partially of our legal system. I know that sounds like legalese, and I guess it is. It underscores a need for stringent measures to protect individuals written within the justice system or within the court setting. Victims, for heaven's sakes. That's what I'm trying to say, victims. Ensuring that personal grievances and biases do not dictate the administration of justice. It does not make any difference if the DA does not like you, that you're referred to as senile. You are an individual. You are a victim. Your child was killed by somebody in their town. What triggered this incident? What triggered it? How could a 70-some-year-old lady and 4 other advocates trigger something like this? Well, the DA was enraged by my decision to exercise my rights, intentionally arranging for me to be in an area without marshals, to encounter the man unexpectedly and his mother responsible for my son's death at a bond revocation hearing. There were no marshals. Well, there were, but they left to protect me. They went into the courtroom. I must admit, I was there, but it was how I felt when I heard those words. But I felt like that night that I found out that my son was killed by a damn drunk driver. You might say I was in shock, trauma, whatever it was that day, but I was in another world, just trying to maneuver. Following a short hearing, it was just a few minutes, I stood to leave the courtroom and found myself surrounded by marshals, the DA, the assistant DA, and the staff, and escorted back to the front office on the 2nd floor. Needless to say, I could not understand no. So you might say I was forced to go. In fact, we were all forced to go, surrounded by these marshals and the staff. And we were all taken back. Why? We're the victims. Why? We didn't do anything. But yes, we did. We showed up for a hearing, which was our right. I guess now I know how it feels to be arrested, because that is how I felt then. I was confused and could not understand why I, a 72-year-old mother and victim, would have several marshals and others forcing me to go with them. I had no choice. I had to. When I think about it today, there would be no reason unless it was simply for intimidation. Fortunately, I do not have heart trouble, because what could have happened if I did? It was stressful, unimaginable. You can imagine what I think. I would not be coming to any more hearings, would I? Would I? At the front office, I was told or actually we were told, all of us, that I could not have my advocate with me unless it were a husband or another child. Vietnam took Kenley's father, my husband, and Kenley was my only child. I was alone. My advocates, each of them, had their own marshals to guard them. Why? I assume they're guarding them, I don't know, maybe to protect the judge. I could just see all of us ladies attacking him. But anyway, that's another story. I ask him again as we sit down. Let me back up a little bit. Everyone else, including the 3 remaining marshals, forcibly escorted me back to the DA's office. It was a long hallway, and boy was I subjected to intimidation. My advocates were surrounded by the marshals and taken to the room. But the way I understand is that as soon as the DA left, the marshals decided that the advocates were harmless and left, except for one. Now, I asked the DA again as I sit down why I could not have an advocate of my choice who had been with me and knew me. I was again told if I did not have a husband or another child, I could not have an advocate of my choice, and I had to take and would be assigned the advocate that was sitting next to me. Now, I had once met this advocate, and in the hallway in the office previously, I had told him that I didn't want her for many reasons. One of the reasons was that she was talking to somebody that I knew and referred to me as senile. Senile! I'm not senile. But she was forced to sit next to me in the office. Now, why would I want either one of the victims' rights people at the courthouse when each of them spoke to me this morning and left me in a situation to meet the defendant and his mother? Yes, each one of them walked by and independently spoke to me. Both of them were victims' rights advocates. They spoke to me, shook my hand, did not protect me. In fact, one of my victims' rights people spoke up and said, well, where's the safe room? She did not know where the safe room is at. She was supposed to be my victim's advocate. Now, I had notified everybody that I was coming, and she was one of them. And they just proudly, one after the other, like ducks, walked into the courtroom, and I stood outside. The DA did not want me to attend the hearing, which again is my right. I sit down in the room, and of course, like I stated before, as I sit down, I ask him about why I could not have an advocate of my choice. And again, he did restate, you have to have a husband and or another child. And he stood up in a very intimidated position. He did not sit, and he was a big man. Oh, I remember that day. I don't remember everything that was discussed in there, but I do remember a couple things. Facebook. I have a celebration of life site private site for my son. And this site basically is just for his friends to get information regarding the trial, regarding everything. They're throughout the United States. And this was my best way of doing it. He didn't want me to do that. And of course, it was about the advocate. There were a few other things discussed that day, too. I understand that it was 45 minutes. When I left, I believe I was in shock about what happened, at least confused. I could not believe a victim could be treated worse than the criminal who killed their child. Oh, did I say? I was taken into another room with my advocates, and things were discussed then. I just couldn't believe it. How could I, a victim, be treated that way? There is a lot more to this, and I eventually will tell you the whole story. But I have to say the DA involved for 3 years intimidated and disrespected me shortly after this infamous day. He and 2 others either retired, stepped down, accepted another position, or were demoted. Fortunately, others in his office saw what was happening and again protected my rights and apologized for his actions at the final plea hearing in March 2023. I truly, truly appreciate them. There are some wonderful people working. In the justice system, there are many committed individuals, but unfortunately, like in this case, not everyone meets these standards of dedication. As a parent, your involvement in the judicial process is crucial. You have a unique perspective and love for your child that the system, overwhelmed with cases, may overlook. You don't want your child's case to be a case number. By actively participating, you ensure your child's case receives the unnecessary attention and compassion it deserves, rather than being treated as just another case number. I am not an attorney. As a mother, mourning my son, Dr. Kenley Gene Raney, and his beautiful dog, Marshall, who a drunk driver killed. I hoped for justice but faced more hardship that should never had, and the district attorney's actions made things worse for me and put me at risk, in a risky situation, all because I exercised my rights. Yes, he put me in a risky situation where I unexpectedly came face to face with the drunk and his mother, alone in a hallway. I think they were just as shocked as what I was. This not only made my grief deeper, but also showed the lack of care from those who were supposed to help. I felt let down and overlooked when I needed understanding and justice for the loss of my son, and still do to this day. I suffer from this ordeal. This is why I am doing these videos, to show you the reality, of what could happen and what you can do to protect yourself. But again, I am probably I don't know how to even state this. I am shocked and hurt and confused by what happened that day and what continued to happen. But again, I am so happy and proud of those who stood up to this man and helped me get the man who killed my beloved son in prison. I am a victim, but I refuse to be victimized any longer. Please, if you have a story to tell, feel free to come onto my YouTube channel and describe what has happened to you. Because if we can tell our stories and let others know that they are not alone, then perhaps maybe this can change in the future. I am Sara Raney, the proud mother of Dr. Kenley Gene Raney, who was killed by a damn drunk driver, January 25th, 2019. Thank you.